With One Stop again. Today we're going to be talking about short sales versus foreclosures. What may be an option for your client? As always, please verify everything with the broker of record of the file you're working on. I'm Sam Hayes. I've been doing this for over 2 decades and I love this stuff. I'm here to talk to you from a risk management focused TC perspective. I am a certified transaction coordinator, certified forms trainer, realty, notary, and just all around CAR forms nerd. What I'm sharing with you today is my kind of take on everything. I want to say that this is not going to be a deep dive. We're going to do separate ones, short sales and foreclosures. There's just too much information. So this is a little bit about me and my mission statement, why I do this and why TC is my objective is to create a defendable, risk management focused and well-documented file in compliance with DRE, broker, and statutory requirements. Through the services that I offer, I provide additional bandwidth to the agents, brokers. I assist by freeing up their time and energy to focus and pursue their business generation goals. I'm here to help you do what you love, so I get to do what I love. Why are we talking about short sales and foreclosures, Sam? There shouldn't be an issue. This shouldn't be going on right now. Well, the universe is changing. And I ended up having a meeting this morning with my brokerage talk where I actually hang my license. And we were talking about this where both I had a couple of agents. One had potential short sale listing and one had a buyer that might be making some offers. Well, it's not surprising. Right now, the average rejection rate for the mortgage refinance, as you can see, has jumped. People are getting declined. And while we've had some higher rates than people are used to in the past few years, granted, we all know everything ebbs and flows, the whole marketing pitch, which I have never been a fan of, you marry the house, you date the rate. Well, that dating has gotten a little abusive for some people and it's extending, it's going on longer than people were expecting. I think people were hoping for some rate decreases sooner than we've had. Right now, I know the Fed's meeting today probably just met. I have not seen what they came through. I've heard everything from 1 to 5 cuts this year. I have no idea what's going on. I don't think anybody has. This has been most volatile time frame I've seen in a long time the past few weeks with rates. So knowing what options your clients have is the whole point of this. And knowing what we can be of service if somebody's starting to have some fears. Knowledge is power, and expectations help, or managing expectations and making it so that it's accessible and it's a fact thing versus a fear, wake up in the middle of the night, somebody's coming to take my house thing, is a great service we can provide. Back when everything got started, I joined real estate in 2003. Back, 3 levels, push hard, blue carbon copies, all of that fun stuff. We were faxing everything. And I was part of a team that did short sales and then eventually REOs. We called it the REO shopping network with all the cleanouts and things I went and did and helped before they had anybody available to do it. And I saw what happened with the short sales and the negotiating and everything over and over again. I was very deep in the trenches from 2000, honestly, 2007 till 13. It was part of just what we did being TCs, and we learned a lot. Things are much different now. Luckily, the tech is better. I think the understanding of the concept is better. There are better laws in place. Overall, it's something to have in the back of your mind, and it's a great skill set to be able to talk your client through. I am not an expert in any of this. I'm going to always keep re-verify all with the broker of record that you have. But looking at this bit of information that I'm sharing with you, and that's from November and it hasn't gotten better, it's good to be aware. And let's just make sure we're familiar and understand these terms so we can be of service to our clients. It is a very emotional time for clients when they're going through these situations. And the more that you can come in as a calm, factual, educated individual, the better off you're going to be able to provide service for your clients. So bottom line, wrapping this part up, I'm concerned. I'm seeing indications in the market. I'm not surprised. I don't think we're going to have a crash. I do think with the changes in potential employment and everything else that's going on, my personal opinion, nothing, verify all for you. My personal opinion is I think we're going to see more of these. I think we're going to be more likely to see more foreclosures because there's so much equity. People aren't short. It's just the ability to sell and get something to buy. That's my concern, and be able to keep up with the payments, especially with what people signed up for thinking rates would be changing. Unemployment rate. Now, this looks, honestly, we're doing great, but things have started to tick up. That's another sign that we're concerned about. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few months with all the changes with the current administration. The delinquency has started to click up. This is over year. We're actually starting to see a rise in delinquencies and mortgage delinquencies. First time that's happened in several years. Granted, there's been a stay on a lot of this because of post-COVID and making sure FHA had their delays. So I think it's hard to pay attention to these numbers. But when they, even with all of those restrictions, taking out the COVID timeframe, some stuff's happening and we need to be aware. It's time to be educated. What is a short sale? Well, this is taken from the DRE, but bottom line is what you owe is not what you were able to pay off. So you are asking the bank to take something back for less than they are supposed to be getting money for. And you're asking them to accept a short payment that it's not going to be there in full. They're not going to get paid in full. This can have tax implications. This can have credit implications. This can cause a lot of problems. It also can be one of the best gifts you can help your client get through to free them to start over, to begin again. They may have just gotten over encumbered. Life happens. So it's a tool that has a dual-edged sword of positive and negative effects. And we want to make sure that we're getting as much information to our clients so they can make the best educated decision possible if they need to elect to ask to have a short sale negotiated. Well, who all do we talk to with a short sale? I mean, you're going to have a more of a team than you do normally. We always will still have our escrow, our title, our lender for the buyer, or if they're cash, we're going to have the lender, of course, that holds the lien. But we're going to start with wanting our clients to talk to these other people before they even sign a listing agreement. We want them to talk to a lawyer, make sure that they are in a situation that it's appropriate for how they did their loan, if there's anything weird, if there's any predatory lending. I just had a really good friend reach out. His partner had chosen to go with a, unfortunately, predatory independent private loan, and it went from a 5-figure amount to a 6-figure amount very quickly. She has not been able to communicate with them, and unfortunately, she's probably losing the property. They called us in a little late to try and do this. One of the benefits right now of when you're getting into these situations with the short sales and everything else is, and we'll get into it more with foreclosures, is we can stop things with some of the new terms and laws that went into effect in January, but that'll be a little further in the presentation. So I did redirect them. They were talking to lawyers. A lot of them, lawyers were not wanting to take it on. It just wasn't going to pay out for them, which is not great, but reality. Also, your clients are going to need to talk to a CPA. If it's not purchase money that they're getting short on, if they've refied, done a HELOC, pulled anything out for, that amount that's forgiven can be seen as taxable income depending on their situation. You want to make sure they're aware of that. It may be better for them to walk away. It may be better to do a lot of things. A tax person is going to be the one to give that advice. As realtors, we never give tax advice or legal advice. That's why we want to direct them to talk to experts in both those fields, because there are implications with short sales. We're going to need to talk to the lien holder. Do we know who the lien holder is? Has the lien holder offered an opportunity to reduce the payments for a while? Are they willing to do a forbearance? Are they willing to do any type of negotiation before we get to this point? Is there anything else we can do before selling the house? Want to have that conversation. Well, you're going to need a short sale negotiator. It is time consuming. It's better now. The tech is better, but it is a very time consuming process. Most TCs, I can do it. It's not something I touch though. Just because I know how to make a cake doesn't mean I'm running a bakery. Get an expert, get somebody who knows the ins and outs and has been through this before and knows who to talk to, has connections. You're going to want this whole team together in addition to your escrow, title, TC, everybody else. It takes a village to get this done, and we want it done properly so everybody's aware and there are no surprises down the line. So you're taking a short sale listing. Well, luckily, Zip Form has this great thing for us where they already have a form library that's set up, and you can get this free library if you don't already have it. You can just go up to the shopping cart in Zip Form, add it, and it's a foreclosure prevention library. We're going to go through the foreclosure or short sale document here in a little bit, just as a cross comparison towards the end of this presentation. But these are some bits of information that you can talk to about what is the short sale process. Have that with your client. Tips for if you have a buyer who's looking for the short sale. Tips for a short sale seller to be aware of. One thing I am encouraging all of my clients to do across the board, because this also comes into compliance with the NAR settlement and transparency of cost. We used to do it back in the day, things got easier. Property profile, first thing you pull, who's all on there? What liens are we showing? What's going on with the property? Who all needs to sign? Are we in a trust? What's up? CMA, what's current market? As we all know, none of us as realtors, brokers, agents set the price. The market does. So what's worth $1 million today could be worth zero tomorrow. We don't know. A CMA puts that out saying, look, this is what it is as of the date that we're doing this listing. We want a seller estimated net sheet. We want it at the top of that CMA. We want an average, and we want worst case scenario. They need to see the difference in what's happening so that there's educated information to your seller when they're having to be in the negotiations, that we have the information to say, look, this is the potential. This is what value is going. This is the potential of what you could owe or what could be outstanding. You want written proof, as we just talked about, this great team that we have, that we're getting a CPA, we're getting a lawyer, we're getting everybody involved. We need written proof and also permission, if it's sets up that way, for you to talk to the lawyer, talk to the CPA, talk to the short sale negotiator, talk to the lien holder. There's a disclosure. There's also in zip forms that needs to be the first thing that goes on both if you're writing an offer or writing your listing, and that's the short sale information advisory. It walks through explaining all the different nuances of the short sale, the potential that we have to wait for the approval, that the bank could last minute not approve. We could end up in foreclosure before that, all the different bits and pieces. It's a 3-page form that in the deeper dive, I will go into the nitty gritty about. It is a key piece that was created when we didn't have anything back in 07, and lawsuits were starting to happen. People were freaking out. Information wasn't shared. It was unknown. So these tools that you're seeing, that's why the dates are a little bit older. Granted, CAR is also now making sure that they have everything updated every 4 years, even if there are no changes. All documents show 4 years, so that's why those are all dated that. Stuff, we have so many wonderful items available to us from CAR that will provide these protections and information. Always also verify with your broker of record. They may have their own in-house lawyer who wants to look over things. You may have your own legal. I'd also talk to your E&O if there's anything that they have or that they require in your listing. These are riskier situations. There is a lot at risk, a lot of loss, a lot of emotion. Remember, you're going to have a very emotional client. The other thing I will remind you is with a short sale, a lot of times back in the day, we've had people kind of check out. It's a lot, it's overwhelming. I would highly recommend do as much of your disclosures, your documentation, everything, so you have your package ready to go in the beginning while you still have somebody engaged. When they're starting to have to move out, when having to look at changes in situations, that emotional carry, that brain noise is just so overwhelming. Trying to get these nitty gritty bits of paperwork that could be crucial, could be devastating to the deal. I've seen it happen. So jump in and get as much as you can from the beginning. The better off you're going to be, the better off the whole transaction will go, and you are going to be providing better service to your client. Oh, okay. Right now, foreclosure filings are on a rise. It's not epic yet, but it is starting to trend a little bit. We are also trickling down, so we're year over year, we're less, month over month, we're up. It's showing evolving market pressures, as Rob says here, CEO at ATTOM. And while some increase may reflect seasonal trends, the uptick in foreclosure starts both month over month and year over year signal potential shifts. With rates not coming down, potential job losses, all the things that are kind of floating out there in the ether right now, there's a shift coming. And again, that's the whole point of this, is to be ready, to be of service to your clients. I'd recommend reaching out to your clients now going, hey, do you have any questions? Do you have anything that's concerned? What's keeping you up at night? What can I get you info on? Is it insurance? Because we know how that in itself is insane, and trying to get things insured in California, especially after our fires. Are you concerned about your loan? Are you concerned about taxes? Or what can I get you some information on, so it's not people just spinning in their heads, but getting facts? Having knowledge calms people down. Taking action calms people down. This is a great opportunity to be of service and get in touch with your clients, especially if your market's really there's nothing to show or talk to them, just like, hey, do you want to buy a house? Go be of service. Go provide some solutions. Getting off my soapbox, but that's the thing I'm a big fan of. The more service and information we can provide, I think the better off we are to our clients. What is a foreclosure? Okay, so it's basically we're going through and the lender uses legal process to force sale of a property to cover a debt. We're coming and saying, okay, you owe me money, you haven't been paying me. I'm coming in for the asset. You can take out the mortgage, and then they own the mortgage. They can force the sale to cover the remaining debt amount. There's many different kinds of debt. I have seen homeowners. A lot of times back in the day, people stopped paying their HOAs, but kept paying the mortgage, and then the HOA would foreclose on the property. That one was fun to get through. Unpaid dues and assessment, final judge's order, say that you owe something. There's all sorts of ways this can happen. So it doesn't just have to be because the mortgage is behind. This can get forced through all sorts of transactions. So talk to your clients, reach out, find out what they need. This way you can be ahead of it, maybe help them with opportunities or find negotiation or mediation to help break down payments, forbearance, all of that if you know that you've got clients that are struggling. So this is from Old Republic, but this is basically the foreclosure time frame. So notice of default. Typically, the recording of the notice of default is usually 120 days out. That can shift up. That's not a hard, fast rule. Then you have to mail it over saying, okay, we've got the notice of default. Then we've got 3 months for the trustee's date to be set. Then we have the prior sale for 25 days out, notice the IRS. Then we have 20 days out, record a notice of trustee's sale. 5 days out, the right to reinstate expires, that's gone. So with the new law that I was talking about earlier, and I talked about it in a previous presentation, but it's California law, you get 2 stops. So if you provide a listing agreement fully executed with a licensed realtor 5 days prior, and you have to show proof of delivery, so it has to be 5 business days prior to comply with these terms, that will buy 45 days. So you can extend it out 45 days by getting the listing agreement over if you have a property in foreclosure. Then, if you are under contract, again, needing to provide 5 days prior, as soon as possible, 5 days prior, then you get 45 days to close that deal. You get one shot. You don't get to, oh, we fill out escrow, so we're going to go back in. Now, can you negotiate it potentially with the lender? Of course you can. But right now, the hard, fast rule is we can buy you 45 days here and buy you another 45 days. These are really important things to know for your clients. And that's why I start to have this conversation saying, look, I can help you, but the sooner you tell me, the more I can jump in. Unfortunately, the friend I was talking about earlier, I didn't get notice in time. We didn't have enough time to get the listing agreement together to buy it. They literally told me like 3 days before it was happening. So it was one of those things, getting in those conversations, letting your clients know before they maybe even have a problem, but saying, hey, I'm a resource if this ever comes up, or if they know anybody that ever comes up. Saying, look, I hope you never have to use me for it. Being able to be there with that resource to walk them through this very emotional process is a really great act of service and something you can bring to your business. Something to keep in mind, great way to reach out and be aware, make sure you're educated on all the different time frames and flows of this. Okay, so we got a foreclosure. We don't have the NOD's been filed. We're hauling butt. What are we going to do? You're going to do the same thing you did with the short sale. And honestly, most of this you probably should be doing with every single listing you take at this point. Property profile, let's see how bad it is, what's recorded. CMA, what's the market telling me? Seller estimated, okay, what's the difference between the numbers? Where are we at? Am I going to be able to get you sold so we become a short sale? Or do we have enough equity that if I get you sold, we can get out of this foreclosure? You don't know until you run that net. We want to make sure they've talked to a lawyer. They've talked to a CPA. It might be better for them to walk away. We don't know. We are not tax people. And then you have this entire foreclosure library to walk through about being aware of scams, because we know there can be predatory purchasers. Things have happened. We've all seen it in our markets. Prevention resources, the timeline, what's their liability, what they can do for tax relief, all of these different things. Go in, make sure you have the clear conversation. If you know there's a potential, let's go deal with this. Your client might not even know. They may think, hey, maybe we need to sell, and not know how far along they are. You being able to come in and take a look at this by pulling that property profile, you're going to be able to go in educated, start answering questions, and be able to say, nope, that's not an option. Yep, we can do this. Back and forth, back and forth. So make sure you are taking the time to learn about these properties before taking these listings. Sometimes some listings just don't have the ROI. And I know we all want the sale and I know we all want to do the deals. And I love that. I hate seeing my agents in these never-ending loops of files that just really should not have been gone on the market, or they have a seller who is not engaged in understanding the transaction or cooperating or just not ready to deal with it. And it can be a waste of your time. And as we all know, we get paid by what we get done in the hour, not by the hour. So the more efficient we can be, the better off it is. I So when you have a notice of default filed, if you have a owner occupied moving into an owner occupied RPA, everything's same as it would be. We're just getting the numbers and everything else, but otherwise the rest of the transaction's the same. When you have an investor come in, and that is anybody who's not going to occupy the property, it's anybody who's coming in that is an entity a lot of times. Double check on that, but typically if there's an entity coming in, these are potentially predatory investors, purchasers coming in, having, when you've got somebody in distress. So this law was created to protect sellers from that situation. What it does is it allows the seller to cancel this transaction. It's one of the few times you can do that. And it also lets them go through and really look at the situation, see what's their highest and best. Things are different than they were years ago during the crash and everything else that we did. I think everybody's a little bit more educated about this, but it's worth being aware of. It's definitely worth being aware of in lower income situations where it may not be somebody who's experienced any of this before or has experienced transactions before. So you're going to want to be there and be as much of a resource as you can. Always verify everything with your broker of record. Again, talk to your E&O because these are risky files to work on. Get a lawyer involved, have the lawyer take a look at stuff, and also make sure those tax implications with that CPA. Those are really huge key pieces because you want to be able to show that you told your client to do that and you've written proof that they said that they did to protect yourself. So this is the document that is in the zip form library, and it's foreclosure or short sale. It really kind of walks you through very clearly, and it's a good one to use with your client because when you don't know what the options are going to be. It talks about defaulting on your loan. It talks about asking the seller, the mortgage holder or lien holder to release the funds. It can have a negative impact on your FICO score. It definitely can have an impact on your ability to obtain credit after the fact. This is why we need them to look at these documents. We need to have this signed off. We need to have them talk to their CPA and make sure that we have educated sellers to know there's a lot of impact to what's about to happen to them, not just having to move on top of it. That's why it's such an emotional thing. It stays with you for a while. This is going to linger on credit, so they need to be prepared to know what to do. What does it have for tax implications? You may have a risk of a rise of taxable income. Short sale can also, like we talked about, if it's not purchase money, then that could be more of an issue. There were different laws passed to protect people who were with purchase money with the situation. Capital gains, you can have impacts from that as well. This could, have you lived there for 2 out of the past 5 years? We need somebody to talk to a CPA. We need somebody to go through all these numbers with them and taxes. This is not something an agent can give advice on. We never can. We do not give advice on tax or legal issues. That is not our forte. We are here to help with the transaction of selling a property. What's their personal liability? Are you going to have to bring in any, do you have any money? They may be looking at your bank accounts. That is a very common thing when you're doing a short sale. It's like, well, if they've got this inheritance back here, they can use that to pay us off. We're not going to give you a short sale. The bank doesn't have to agree to a short sale. And the foreclosure is typically a result of them trying to and needing to try and work this out with the client and the client not being able to or not responding. So you've got to make sure that everybody's aware of you have a commitment. You signed a contract to get this loan and you have this property as collateral. It's not just an easy peasy walk away situation. There are different implications of what you could be responsible for. Possession, how long can you stay in the property? I know that we had some foreclosures where the seller bailed, the buyer moved, buyer didn't pay for 2 years. We didn't know who to pay. We couldn't even close the deal. It just went on for 2 years and somebody stayed in a property without having to make any payments. It was ridiculous. We've had stuff with short sales that we can go ahead, if we're extending out and still negotiating and still negotiating. I had a deal that I think I redid 9 times, 9 times, but we redid the escrow. No, it kept going and canceling, and everybody, because the cost of taking back was so great, the bank kept extending. That's the other thing to remember. The banks do not want to become realtors. They do not want to suddenly have this giant inventory. A lot of times, if you can show where it'll be beneficial for them and less costly, if they will work with you, the better off your client's going to be, the better for your transaction's going to be. So that's why you want to work with a short sale negotiator who is educated in the terminology and what documentation to provide to show the benefit to the bank to go ahead and work with us to get this off their books, be it a plus or minus, but still they're not dealing with the carrying costs or anything like that. So those are some of the benefits to talk about too. And that's why you need a short sale negotiator. Personal concerns. It can be, agonizing. It can be overwhelming. There's a lot of paperwork. It's exhausting. It's emotional. What if this happens? There's shame, there's stigma, there's this, I failed, this, I didn't, you already got somebody who potentially has probably already lost employment, may have had a family hardship, may have had a health hardship that has created this. You've already got people that are in emotional states. Take that into account. Be savvy, be kind. This is not something anybody wakes up and goes, I'd like to have a short sale today. That sounds like fun. That's not going to happen. This situation is usually the result of other traumas that have already happened. So that be aware, come in as a voice of concern and come in as a voice of support. You are coming in with your educated ability to try and help alleviate and reduce the situation. It's not going to go away. You can't make it all better, but we can get this closed and we can help assist with closure. That's our goal. That's the service we can provide, which is why I'm harping again. I'm in a harping mood to circle back. Go talk to your clients now before stuff. People are scared right now. Things are weird. It's just weird in the universe. Go talk to your clients. Say, hey, can I help you? How can I help you? Let's talk about questions. Even generic things like I'm doing here, just something that you can talk to your clients, I think is going to help you really connect with them. Be a knowledge broker, be there of service. Doesn't mean you're threatening them. I don't want to be scary or no doom and gloom, but let's be aware. Let's just so we know the options and we know how to handle it if something comes up. There are different ways for assistance as defined through here. Real estate licensees, typically with foreclosure. Short sale, you can hire somebody to help you get through it. We can get you all that. Either way, we're exempt from the requirement. So you do not have to have the bonded from the Department of Justice because they know realtors are already assisting and we already have all of our other things. So we're good there. But this is letting people know they're not alone and there are tools available and that they are able to get this accomplished without being by themselves or having to feel that they were not educated in all their options. So summarizing everything, bottom line is get yourself educated about the short sale foreclosure difference. Get your clients educated about the short sale foreclosure difference. Make sure you're talking to, maybe you've got a CPA you could team up with or a lawyer or somebody you could do a combined presentation. Now's the time to start doing some connecting and networking. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? It never hurts to have resources and provide this for everyone that you're working with. I hope I can be your resource. I'm going to be doing these videos. As you can see, this is the upcoming topics for the next month. Thank you for your patience in skipping a week. I had gone to visit some family and that jet lag from Arkansas was a little bit more than I had expected. So it was better to wait a week. Of course, my end of the month is always what went wrong. We're going to do a recap, and I've got a pretty good list this year, this month, the year. It feels like a year. This quarter, I should say, what else gone wrong and what didn't work and worked. Then we're going to go into the difference. What is the difference between a notice to buyer perform and a demand to close escrow? That is like the foreclosure short sale topic, something where people are like, well, I'm going to do this. No, 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 no. Hold on. Let's make sure which one's which. Again, we talked about that we're going to do about loan broker, sales broker, and the 24-hour rule. I have a lot of my mortgage clients that also do real estate, and there are certain documents that have to be in place if you've got the same broker. Do you know which ones? I do. Let's talk about that. We're also going to talk about solar in the RLA and the RPA. Who's responsible? What needs to be done? What can we be getting when? There's a lot of stuff about solar that's kind of still the wild, wild west, but the more we're getting into this and the more documentation we can get ahead, better off you're going to be. Then on April 23rd, we're going to talk about escrow and lender and timelines. Escrow and lender don't have the same timelines that the realtor does. And the timelines in the contract may not be something that they're watching. So let's talk about how do we merge those two together, manage expectations from the start of the transaction, and get everybody on the same page. I know there are times when the lender needs this right now. Well, that's great, but it's not due for 3 days and I can't get it from the other side. Getting those expectations and understandings communicated together is really important. I hope you join the call every Wednesday, or I have my replays up on YouTube. And as always, I am here for any questions, even if I'm not the TC on the file, and I will talk about this stuff till I'm blue in the face. You can contact me via cell or email or find me on Facebook and all the other socials. Everything's at One Stop TC. I'm Sam Hayes. This was Why with One Stop, talking about short sales and foreclosures. Please like, follow, subscribe, call, comment. What would you like to hear a topic about? I'm here and I'm all ears. I just keep coming up with anything that I see go wrong that becomes a topic for the next week. Verify all with the broker of record. Check with your E&O. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks for joining me.